Your Honor.
Okay. I move to move out of closed session and back into open session.
Second.
Motion and support, roll call vote, please.
Delaney,
Yes.
Kinnaman,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Musgrave,
Yes.
Weinbrenner,
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes, motion carried. We're now in open session. Anything further?
So, we have
Oh, yeah,
talked,
we do have further action, yes.
so we have talked about collective bargaining agreements in closed session. What I'd like to do now is just give you some brief detail and ask for your consideration of approval of this tentative agreement. And so we'll first talk about the Teamsters Local 214, which represents the DPW, the wastewater treatment plant, and the clerical staff for the village of Holly. The contract itself is a 3-year contract, which is standard with other contracts. It calls for a 9% wage increase over a 3-year period. And so the Teamsters have requested their wages be structured with 4% the first year, 3% the second year, and 2% the last year of the contract. And they asked for the to be structured that way so that they receive a few extra $100 this first year during these difficult economic times. Throughout this agreement, there are some language changes that just bring us in compliance with state and federal law in regard to medical leaves and Family Leave Act and the way in which those leaves are taken, as well as removing specific names of medical providers that provide service to the employees of the village. Sometimes we change those providers midstream without choice, and so it really handcuffs us to have those specific names. So as long as we don't decrease coverage or change it, we can then change providers, and so that's a benefit to us. Another economic point of this agreement is previously this group received $200 to buy cold weather gear. They requested a $100 increase to $300 to buy cold weather gear once a year. And really, there has not been an increase in that area in a long time. So we think that that is very well worthwhile and deserved. The last section that I'll talk about that is not just a language change has to do with retiree health care. Previously, an employee who worked 25 years for the village could receive retiree health care for the employee only, not for spouse and not for dependent, from a time period or an age span of age 55 to age 65, at which time they would lose whatever retiree health care they had. The theory was they were going on Medicare, but still there's additional costs after that. And during that 10-year period, it would be a 50-50 split of the cost with the village. And so the negotiation language came down to employees would go on a health care savings account, and they would receive 1.5% of their base for prior years of seniority prior to the signing of this contract, and then from then forward, they would receive 1% per year, which would go into a healthcare savings plan, and that would be their money. And so they would have that money from the time they retired. It can be used for spouse, it can be used for dependent, it can be used for anything that's permissible under federal and state law for healthcare savings plans. So it can be used for over-the-counter items such as aspirins or bandages or anything that's permissible. So we think this is a good benefit for the employees. This particular group wanted this benefit. Other groups in the village did not, and that's fine. We didn't make it an all or nothing for every employee because we thought as long as it was group by group, that was a fair way to represent that. And so that's what you have. That is my summation of the Teamsters tentative agreement. Would you have any questions? Okay.
Do we make a motion at this point?
You do.
Okay, I make a motion that we accept
the Teamsters agreement as Jerry has talked about.
Support.
Motion and support. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please. This is on the Teamsters settlement agreement, negotiated settlement agreement.
Kinnaman,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Musgrave,
Yes.
Weinbrenner,
Yes.
Delaney,
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes, motion carried. Command, police command.
Yes. So this agreement is similar to the Teamsters in that it's a 3-year agreement. The wages are still in the same area, but the command officers requested an additional percent. What that additional percent does is it creates a differential between a command officer and a patrol officer. And so they've asked for 10% over a 3-year period. So when we're dealing with other unions, we've been talking 9%. The Teamsters agreed to 9%. The command officers have requested 10%. With that differential, it puts them right at or just under 14% differential between a patrol officer and a command officer. We think that that's a well-deserved, and probably in comparison to other departments, maybe even a little on the low side, but it is an improvement, and it will increase over the years due to compounding and the higher rate. So that's 4, 3, and 3. The same provisions regarding healthcare, removing those specific departments or companies that they would get care from, as long as we don't decrease the coverage. We've changed some language in relation to holidays, which holidays they would receive, not decreasing or increasing the number, just a change in the ones specified. It really doesn't make any difference because a police officer, whether you're a patrol officer or command officer, somebody is working 365 days, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So somebody is here all the time. So the same amount of holidays, just different holidays. We cleaned up some language as it has to do with FMLA. We cleaned up some language as it had to do with their compilation of compensatory time and how they can use that. They requested an increase in their clothing allowance from $600 to $800. We think that that's an appropriate increase. Buying uniforms or duty gear is an expensive proposition for the police officers. $600 is not enough to do it every year. $800 probably is not enough to do it every year, but it is an increase. And again, that was their request, and so that's where we're at with that. Section 12, or numeral 12, section 6 has to do with a retirement ID badge and gun. And so this is a new item for this group. They've never had this before. They are requesting that upon retirement in good standing, having at least 20 years of full-time police service and a minimum of 5 of that with the Village of Holly, that they be presented with their retirement badge and ID and allowed to purchase their duty weapon for $100. This is a standard benefit across the police profession. And so, I mean, I think this is a legitimate request, and we approve that. With this tentative agreement, we talked about numerous items. With this agreement, though, that the union's bargaining team, the village's bargaining team has agreed upon, the union has agreed to withdraw all of their proposals. This would settle that contract for the next 3-year period. So based on that, we would ask for your approval.
Any comments or questions?
I'll move to approve the collective bargaining agreement for POLC Command.
I'll second.
There's motion and support, and we'll be visiting the patrol officers at a later date.
That is correct.
Okay, all right. Any further comments or questions? Roll call vote, please.
Powers,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Musgrave,
Yes.
Weinbrenner,
Yes.
Delaney,
Yes.
Kinnaman,
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes, motion carried.
With that, we're done.
With that, we are adjourned. There's no objection.
Boy.
We are adjourned.
9:44.
Oh.
Oh, Josh, how many viewers did we have?